Hello and welcome to the True North Show. I'm your host, Megan North, and I'd like to start by thanking the sponsors of the show, Quantum Awakening, Beth Lewis, and C. Clark, and of course, our lovely guest who has kindly supported the show and is featured on this episode. Today, I am joined by Mark Anthony, who not only is my guide and mentor, but he is also a world-renowned theta healing instructor, intuitive healer, and international speaker. Best known for helping individuals transform subconscious beliefs and step into alignment with their highest potential. He is the creator of the Wealth Consciousness Theta Healing Elective. Oh my gosh, that's a mouthful, Mark. The Wealth Consciousness Theta Healing Elective and a certified Theta Healing Master Instructor. Having taught theta healing since 2005, Mark brings over 2 decades of global teaching experience and is recognised for his grounded, results-driven approach to healing, intuition, and abundance. He specialises in wealth consciousness, intuitive development, and deep belief work, guiding students to move beyond limitation and create lasting transformation. Mark's journey began following a diagnosis with a serious health condition where he experienced a profound personal shift after being introduced to theta healing. This pivotal moment reshaped his understanding of the connection between the mind, body, and subconscious beliefs and led him to dedicate his life to helping others transform. Since 2013, Mark has taught the highly regarded Wealth Consciousness class, showing that money is not the cause, but the effect of one's internal state. His teachings support individuals in releasing subconscious blocks around money, success, and self-worth, allowing them to create greater ease and sustainable abundance. Mark teaches globally, both in person in Sydney and online, and is passionate about helping others heal and become confident practitioners sharing this work with integrity, clarity, and real impact. Mark, welcome to the True North Show. I'm so grateful to be having this time with you today.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. Thank you so much, Megan, for the opportunity.
You are so welcome. So Mark says that your money story starts long before the money ever shows up. It's in the subconscious beliefs shaping your reality. So stay with us, because after this quick commercial break, Mark will share with us how the work he does shifts those beliefs and empowers you to step into true wealth consciousness. Welcome back to the True North Show. I'm here with Mark Anthony, a theta healing instructor and intuitive healer who helps people transform the subconscious beliefs that keep them stuck around money, success, and self-worth. So Mark, before we dive into the wealth consciousness piece, I would love to start by asking you to share the circumstances around your defining moment that led you to pursue your now true passion and purpose.
Oh, that's a great question. So really simple, actually, for me, it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever heard in my life. And it was when the doctors said to me, there's nothing more that we can do for you. You have to go home. Well, no, they didn't say go home, but they said you just have to hope for the best. That was a really scary time. So just stepping back a little bit, I'm actually an engineer, and I had my own business in the construction industry, and I was just feeling run down. I was working long hours. I was very busy, and I went to see a chiropractor who did a manipulation. It was over aggressive. They said he broke 2 ribs and a vertebrae. So I ended up with 4 fractures. And from that, cutting a long story very short, I ended up in hospital because there was an infection inside my vertebrae. And they called the condition that I had vertebral osteomyelitis. So osteomyelitis is just a bone infection, and vertebral because it was in the vertebrae. And so I was there in the medical system, and I have full faith in the medical system. I was brought up very conventionally. I've had a very conventional upbringing. So, very, very Catholic family. Like, my background is Lebanese, but I was born in Australia, and I've never actually been to Lebanon, so I'm more Australian than I am Lebanese. But, ultimately that was the upbringing, and my parents are very Catholic. And so going to church every Sunday, in fact, I guarantee you can go to my mum's house now and she'll be watching YouTube with some sort of church ceremony that's happening somewhere around the world. It's guaranteed. And so, having that mindset too, that the medical system was the be all and end all. If we got sick, our parents would take us to the doctors, we'd get that magic pill, and it was happy days. So all of a sudden I'm in hospital, I've got this medical condition, and one of the things that I did was I read about this condition. It said that if it's not treated, it's fatal. But that wasn't an issue, that wasn't a stress at all, because I had faith in the medical industry, and they were giving me antibiotics to treat it, and we went through the process doing all these biopsies, including a biopsy that was meant to be just 3 holes in my side, where they'd put a camera in there and take a sample of the infection. And they said the worst case scenario, if we have to cut you open, it'll be a 2-centimeter cut. When I came out of that procedure, I actually had 2 tubes coming out my side that were draining the blood and everything, because I had to collapse the lung to do the procedure. I had a button for morphine, and I've got a scar that's 20 centimeters across my back. And worst case scenario was a 2-centimeter cut, and I end up with a 20-centimeter cut. So the first thing the doctors would, after a few days, they told me was, the good news is you don't have cancer, which was a shock to me, because I didn't know they were checking for cancer. And group conscious wise, family genetics, there's a lot of fear around cancer. So thankfully I didn't have cancer, but the bad news is they didn't take enough sample to test for anything else. And that's where it was stressful, because I'd actually undergone what they call major surgery. As the procedure is called an open thoracoscopy. Those of you that are aware of the medical industry, it's actually major surgery as a biopsy.
Wow.
And they wanted to repeat that 7 days later. So in my case, we had orthopedic surgeons, cardiothoracic surgeons, neurosurgeons, and infectious diseases doctors. And they were all specialists. They were all amazing people, and they were all working on me trying to figure out what this infection was. And I said to them, well, if you're going to do the procedure again, make sure all 4 of you are there so you get enough for everybody. But thankfully for me, I didn't need to do that procedure, because I ended up getting a fever. So the Australian medical system, if you get a fever in hospital, they have to treat you. They have to give you some sort of antibiotics. So what they did was they put me on a really high dosage antibiotic, and they told me that it's a 6-week treatment. At the end of the 6 weeks, the infection will be gone, and then it'll take about a year for the bones to regenerate, not to completely heal. So happy days, right? I take it, and that's when I read that if it's not treated, it's fatal. But it wasn't a stress, because I had the medications. The other thing that was important there too was the infection levels in my blood were 125. Normal levels are 0 to 15. So the infection levels in my blood were incredibly high. Yeah, and so the 6-week treatment goes through, and they do another blood test, and the infection levels haven't shifted at all. So in other words, the antibiotics didn't work. And so they start doing more biopsies. So they did another fine needle biopsy, and the results of that, nothing grew. So they couldn't identify what the actual infection was. And that's where it got to the point where the doctors were like, well, Mark, there's nothing more we can do for you. You've just got to hope for the best. And that was where they put me on the antibiotic that didn't work, and they put me on another high dosage antibiotic. And it was like, we're just going to hope for the best. And I thought, well, if we're just hoping for the best, I don't want to be in this environment anymore. And so I basically forced the doctors to discharge me.
Mm-hmm.
And my reasoning was, well, if I'm going to die, I'd rather die at home.
Yeah.
And that was where I was at. It was crazy. There's nothing that I'd ever experienced before in my life. It was just such a scary time. I mean, if you look at the point that I was at in my life, I had a successful business. Things were going really well. Married, beautiful wife, and a 2-year-old daughter. Like, everything was amazing. And then all of a sudden, like, everything is just turned upside down. And when they discharge you from hospital, you've got to go and see all the specialists.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to go see them individually, and they tell you where you're at and what you need to do. And I'll never forget it. We walked into my wife and I walked into the neurosurgeon's office, and he looks at me and he says, "Mark," he said, "you really need to understand your situation." He said, "If you pick up a shopping bag, it will collapse your spine." It's like, okay. Oh, wow.
Wow.
And yeah, that was crazy. So all of a sudden I'm in this position where, like, the thing that I was relying on is no longer an option. And so you start to look at alternatives.
Yep.
So it was lucky for me that, like 11 years earlier, I'd actually met a woman who was amazing, but I thought she was a weirdo because she was into all this spirituality stuff. And like, that's where my mind was. Like, if you talk about skeptics, if you talk about, conventional people, I was it. And she was into all this spirituality stuff. And I thought, oh my God, like, this girl's too out there for me. She was going to see a naturopath. That's what too out there was for me.
Wow.
But I told her that she was weird, and she said, well, if you don't like it, see you later. And I thought, oh, wow, like, that's not the answer I was expecting, but she's a nice girl. Maybe I should have a look at what she's doing. So we enrolled in a class together, and one of the first things I spoke about was intuition and gut feelings. And that's when the light bulb came on for me, because I'd experienced that before in my life. I had no idea where they came from, how they got there, but I just knew when I got that gut feeling, I had to trust it. And these people were saying that you can use that in your day-to-day life. You can use it. And that was the thing for me. That was the thing for me. It was like, wow, I need to understand how this works. Right? Having the engineering mind, it's like, well, like, everything has structure. We need to find out what the structure is and how this actually works.
Yeah.
And so for the next 11 years, we started looking into, like, spirituality stuff. I looked at different modalities, and there was always that something missing. And so fast forward 11 years later, I'm at this point where it's like, well, the medical system can't help me anymore. So what am I going to do? And so I went to see my naturopath, and my naturopath gives me a book, and it turns out to be a theta healing book. And as soon as I picked up that book and I started reading it, I just knew this was it. I had that intuition kicked in. It was just like, whatever this is it.
Yeah.
So I found it. I did a one-on-one consultation. I took a class, and that was it. That was it. My life was transformed.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it was just absolutely phenomenal. And so now it was like, well, because when I got sick, because I was sick for a long period of time, I had to give my business away. So I no longer had an income. I didn't have anything, and my wife had to leave work. So, by the way, my wife is the weirdo.
I was just about to say, should we clarify that the widow is your wife?
Yeah, so we've got a joke between us. I don't know who the bigger weirdo is today. But yeah, like that was like just really amazing, like just the way everything sort of came together. And so I'm at this position where I'm not working. I've given my business away.
Yeah.
My wife isn't working because I can't pick up a shopping bag. And we've got a 2-year-old child, so somebody's got to do that.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. Like, financially, it was a nightmare. It was scary times. It was really scary times. And then all of a sudden, I'm in this position where I'm alive again. I've got my life back.
Yeah.
It was like I've got this second chance, and what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
Right? It was just amazing. And like I never had any intention of becoming a healer or a teacher or doing any of this sort of work. It was just I was half dead.
Yeah.
And then, my family see me, and all of a sudden I look amazing, and they're like, "Well, hey, whatever you've got, can we have some?"
Yeah.
And so I started practicing doing some healings on them, like not really knowing what I was doing,
Yeah.
not thinking this was going to be a career path for me or a purpose.
Yeah.
It was just like I'm alive, and it's amazing. And one other key thing that I will bring up there, because you're talking about passion and purpose. One really profound thing that happened for me during that time was I was actually in hospital in the cardiothoracic ward. So that's where they do the heart bypass operations. And there was this gentleman. So I was in like a public room. So he was diagonally opposite me. He was an amazing guy, really amazing guy. Like we really hit it off. He was a real gentleman. And all of a sudden the doctors and the nurses come in and they're giving him his results. And they say to him, look, we've done all the tests and we've identified that all we need to do is give you a pacemaker and you'll be fine. So all of a sudden, this guy starts freaking out. He starts swearing at the doctors. He's swearing at the nurses. He's getting himself out of bed. His wife is sitting there. She's bawling her eyes out. He's getting dressed. He's telling them, I want you to discharge me now. It was just crazy. So basically what happened, this man owns a bus. In Australia, if you have a pacemaker, you cannot drive a bus.
Wow.
So that was his business, and he saw his livelihood going out the window.
Yeah.
And I remember in that moment, like I was half dead. I had no idea. I was in constant pain, right? Bone pain is the worst pain. Right? I was just in this constant pain. And in that moment, it was like there was just nothing else in my reality. It was just like, you know what, God, if there is something out there that can help people, show me what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And honestly, 10 seconds later, I went back to being half dead.
Yeah.
Completely forgot all about that. But if we talk about profound moments, like that was one of the keys for me. And that's one of the things that keeps me going today. It's about that, making that difference in other people's lives, because I had a second chance. Like I was doing all the wrong things. I wasn't living the best life, like smoking, drinking, all these sorts of things. I did not have appreciation for life.
Yeah.
Right. Even though I had so much abundance around me, an incredible woman that is my wife, and, an amazing daughter at the time, incredible family, all the properties we had and everything. It was just, I felt like I had nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate anything. It didn't matter how much I had. And all of a sudden I've got like this second chance. And I tell you, like the day that I walked out of hospital, right, I was still half dead.
Yeah.
I was still half dead. But when I walked out of hospital, I felt the sun on my skin for the first time in ages.
Wow.
And it brought me to tears. There is so much that we take for granted.
Yeah.
There is so much to be grateful for in our day-to-day lives. And I was one of those people that just disregarded everything.
Yeah.
I didn't see the value for everything. And that was so profound for me, because it was like all of a sudden now it's like, okay, well, I've got this opportunity. I'm alive again. I'm just so excited that I can still breathe, that, I can feel the sun. I can spend time with my daughter.
Yeah.
Right. It was a miracle, and to be able to share that with other people, that's priceless.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's definitely one of the things that, having studied with you and you being my guide and mentor for over 10 years now, that gratitude is something that just builds more and more and more within me as well, because the work that, the healing that you do and the unconscious beliefs that we then heal, that gratitude, I think, is something that it almost feels like it's my base foundation now. It's because I just look at everything as gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. It's so
Yeah.
important. Like it's, one of the things well, one of the ways that I look at life today is that everything is a gift,
Yeah.
right? Every person that comes into your life, you're a gift to them and they're a gift to you. So you'd know this, Megan. One of my favorite sayings is no person is your friend, no person is your enemy. Every person is your teacher.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that because there is so much to gain from the interactions with everybody around us, and everything is a gift. And when we're in that energy of gratitude, our life transforms.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, absolutely. And so we're talking about gratitude and you looking at every situation, person, everything as a gift. So from a mental health and well-being point of view, is that something that is still important to you even though you sit in that space of gratitude?
100% it's important because the thing you got to understand, right, is if you're in a physical body, you're a work in progress. Right. So if we look at, like on a spiritual level, the ultimate goal is to reach that state of enlightenment,
Yeah.
right? Or to become like that ascended master. That's the goal for every one of us, right?
Mm.
Whether we're aware of it or not, that is the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And so as long as we're still in physical body, we haven't mastered it, right? So we're not there yet. And so we're constantly a work in progress. And, taking care of our mental health is really important, right? So I do healing, like I identify belief systems, and I'm constantly working on myself on a daily basis, right? So I'm always working on things that come up. So that actually helps me with my mental health,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm constantly recognizing what's coming up and I'm addressing the root cause of it. Why is it showing up in my life?
Yeah.
Right. But there are a lot of other things that I do. So obviously the gratitude is one that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do that on a daily basis. And I recommend for everybody starting your day with gratitude. Right. That's the most important thing, because when you start with gratitude and you genuinely express gratitude for everything that is in your life, you find that it raises your vibration, it raises your state of being.
Yeah.
And when you've got an elevated state of being, you allow more abundance into your life, because it's one of the keys with life is we don't make things happen, we allow things to happen.
Mm.
Right. So that's one of the key things. But I guess, the other benefit with the theta healing that I do is when we access a theta brainwave, that's a meditative state.
Yeah.
So I'm meditating, I'm going into that meditative state.
Yeah.
Right. But there are other things that I like to do on a conscious level too. Like, there's sometimes where, I just like to get in the car with the family and we go out for dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
It's switching off. You got to allow yourself to have that time out where you just switch off from everything,
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I enjoy doing is going fishing. It's something that my dad used to take me when I was a kid. And now I take my children fishing.
Yeah.
And, when I say children, like my kids my son's, the youngest, and he's 18. So they're not exactly toddlers, even though I do see it that way.
And do you think that that's probably some gifted wisdom that was imparted on you in the sense of when you had that big career engineer, you weren't grateful for all of the things that you had. I guess your mental health probably wasn't something that you were consciously looking after either.
Oh, absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah, look, I had no idea about mental health, and
Yeah.
let's be honest. Like, I mean, that's going back a few years now. Like,
Yeah.
that's over 20 years ago. So the
Yeah.
awareness for mental health wasn't that great either
Yeah.
back then. So we've come a long way in
Mm.
that area, which is so good. It's so important because, um, a lot of people struggle with that. It's a lot more common than people are aware of. Like often we can feel like, we're isolated, we're on our own, but it's not the case. There's so many people going through difficulties. It's really important that you're doing things for that mental health. But one other thing that I will say is really beneficial as far as my mental health too, is I take care of my body. Right. So whether it's, eating the right foods, whether it's, getting the right vitamins, and I've got an integrative doctor that I go and see, and she's absolutely amazing. And like, I just stay on top of things, and that if your body's feeling good, it's a lot easier for your mind to feel good and to be clear.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people think that, the body doesn't affect the mind. It does. If I'm constantly in pain, it's very difficult for me to think straight.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people have like those experiences with their body, and that's taking their energy away. That's blocking them from having that clarity of their mind. That's having the freedom of the mind.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Like it's having freedom of your mind, that you own your mind, and your mind or your subconscious beliefs are not controlling you. Right. Because that's what happens for a lot of things where we look at mental health. It's external factors that are creating the internal effect that we're experiencing, and we find it difficult to get out of. And that's what a lot of people struggle with. But I believe it's like that holistic approach. Right. So changing my belief systems, doing practical things that allow me to switch off and just be present, especially with the people that I care about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like even though I spend time with my family and that, I love going fishing on my own.
Yeah.
I just love sitting by the water. I don't care if I catch fish or not.
Yeah.
That's not the priority. It's just being present by that water, being in nature. Right. That allows me to really connect and free my mind. I think that's really important for people to find that thing for you. It allows you to free your mind, that you're not sitting there thinking about the 300 million stresses that you've got going on, and everything that you've got to do for work tomorrow and for your kids and for everybody else around you. That it can be so overwhelming. It's about being able to find that time. Well, no, sorry, not find the time. It's being able to choose that you are important enough to take time out for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you talked about, finding the thing that works for you as well, because I'm constantly talking to all of my guests about that. I think it's so important, because social media these days are saying you should meditate, or you should do this, or you should do that. The ice bath thing is the big thing at the moment. I couldn't think of anything worse than to go and do an ice bath. I am not going to do it. Yes, it may have benefits, but it's not for me. And so I think it's really important when we're talking about what are the things that are good for us, that it's the stuff that's good for us because it's right for us and it's aligned for us, not what we should be doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, like, something that's going to make me relax is going to stress another person out. Like, you look at an amusement park. If we go on a roller coaster together, let's say I'm scared of roller coasters, but you absolutely love them. We go on that roller coaster together. It's the best thing you've ever experienced. And moving forward from that point, it's a positive experience for you. But for me, it's the scariest thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I've got all this fear, and that's the energy that I'm taking forward with me in my life. What's good for one person is not good for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
You are unique, and it's about owning that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
In this society today where it's all about fitting in, being normal. No, you don't want to be normal.
Yes.
Be original, be yourself.
Absolutely.
You.
Yeah, I love that. And what about grounding? Have you got any things that you do from a ground? I mean, obviously you talked about nature, so that's naturally we get grounded when we're in nature. Is there anything specific that you do from a daily grounding practice?
It's a really interesting question. That's a really interesting question. Honestly, I don't do a lot of things to ground me, right? Because I'm more of the consciousness of being that one with all that is.
Yeah.
If we're with the energy of all that is, then there's nothing to ground ourselves from.
Oh, that's good.
right? So yeah, and I guess from that perspective, it keeps me grounded. But like, I mean, the other thing that keeps you grounded too, and I guess probably like, from a humility perspective, right? Like recognizing I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I'm still a work in progress. I've got a lot of issues. There's always stuff going on. If you, as long as you are interacting with people, there's going to be issues coming up for you. Right?
Particularly when you're driving your car.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah. I mean, especially if people drive the speed limit. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You should drive the speed limit.
Uh, but no, that's really, I think that's really interesting point to make. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I find too. And the other thing too is like, I'm constantly working on myself. So
Mm.
I've got that awareness of what's coming up for me,
Yep.
right? What I'm walking in. See, a thing that a lot of people experience, right, that they may not have a great awareness of is external energies affect your energy, right? So what happens is we walk into a room and we're feeling good. All of a sudden we're angry. And we
Mm.
don't know why we're angry, but all of a sudden we're angry. And that we leave that room and all of a sudden, like all our interactions with the people beyond that are going to be ones of anger.
Yeah.
So it's like that ripple effect. So we're angry with the next person, that next person gets into that energy of anger and it ripples on.
Yeah.
And so it's really important that you allow yourself to start recognize like how different environments affect your energy.
Mm.
Are you walking into a room feeling good and then all of a sudden you're feeling diminished or you're feeling sad? It's other people's energies in a lot of cases that people are taking on that they're not aware of.
Yep.
And that's a really important thing for people to recognize. So I find that because I'm constantly like looking at myself, working on myself, recognizing things that come up, I find that I'm able to identify those things a lot quicker.
Mm.
And so healing those sorts of things just keeps me more present.
Yeah.
And it keeps me more in that grounded energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And having been on this journey myself for a long time, when you first start, it's very deep, heavy stuff. Whereas now it's a lot quick. It comes up. Oh, that's interesting. Need to do a quick healing on that. What's the belief system? Let's work on it. It just becomes a lot quicker. It's not. I don't have to sit down with someone for an hour and a half to work through the issue.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And look, it's like anything in life. You're not born being a master of, the piano or something like that. You've got to get in there and practice. You've got to
Yeah.
work at it. And it's the same with this. Like, you work on yourself. You practice. You refine your abilities. And the best way to do it is building your confidence. So working with other people where you may do a healing for somebody or help somebody and all of a sudden they feel a shift. And that builds confidence in you. So, wow, yes, I can do this. And then, the more you do it, then you start recognizing more of those shifts in yourself. And then you get to the point where you find that whatever's coming up for me, I can deal with it really quickly, really easily.
Yeah.
And that's where it's happy days.
Yes. Exactly. So when I was introducing you, we were talking about the wealth consciousness course. So I've had the pleasure of attending it, and it was definitely life-changing for me. So why did you decide to create this course, and why is it so important to you?
Okay, so I mentioned how I had like an amazing transformation in my own life, right? So like even before like all the spirituality stuff, for some reason, I was just able to manifest things pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I always just, felt like if there was something that I needed, like it would just come into my life. Somehow it would just show up. So not understanding manifesting, I was a good manifester. Not from an ego perspective, but
Yeah.
like it was almost like it wasn't hard. It was like easy for things to come together for me.
Yeah.
And so what happened was when I started working with people, right? Because I did mention that like I had no intention of becoming a healer or doing any of this sort of work. Like the first instructors class that I took, I remember Vienna the founder was standing up at the front of the room and she said, 80% of you are going to teach this work. I remember sitting there thinking, thank God I'm in the 20%. I never had any intention of pursuing this as a career or anything like that. But everything that I did to get back into engineering or construction was like these brick walls would show up in front of me. Everything I did relating to this healing work was like this red carpet was rolled out. And so, I mean, that was a stress in itself, like, being a conservative or conventionally minded person.
Yeah.
Like, I just kept getting pushed down this like alternative path. It was a struggle at times.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
You were the weirdo now, not your wife.
Absolutely, 100%. I own that. But basically what happened is I started working with people and having the experience that I had. I just expected everybody to have the same experience, have like an incredible transformation.
Yep.
But see, the thing is some people did, but then some people didn't. And it was like, well, hang on a minute. Like, all the factors are the same, right? If we look at it from a quantum physics perspective, everything is made up of energy.
Yep.
We are all made up of the one energy. So like our physical bodies are made up of the same energy that makes up our doors, our ceiling, all the parts of our house. Everything is made up of the same energy. So if we're made up of that one energy, and that one energy is infinitely abundant, that one energy can do anything. Everything is possible for that one energy.
Yep.
And what that means is that's the essence of who we are. So for us, all possibilities exist at once. Right? So that's my understanding from a scientific perspective. Now, I'm translating that into working with people. And a lot of people are having amazing results, but other people aren't. Why on earth is not everybody experiencing the same thing? And so I began studying the people that would come to me. I would look at all the things, the common factors in the people that had amazing results. And then I would look at all the common factors in the people that didn't have amazing results. And that was the basis for the wealth consciousness class. And so I realized that what I need to do is I need to create something and like engineer mind, right? I need to create some sort of system that people can follow, that they can achieve whatever they desire. Because if manifesting is easy for some people, manifesting is easy for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? So, there are people out there that may think, my manifestations don't work. I guarantee your manifestations work, right? But it's manifesting the things that you're not wanting that is working for you. You're manifesting those negative things. Like, and that can be changed. Like, don't think that, that's your lot in life. Don't think that you're stuck with those circumstances being your truth, right? It's important to understand that, okay, well, we've just got to reframe the picture. We've just got to shift the focus of this picture, and then all of a sudden we can start manifesting the true things that we truly desire. Because even if you've got negative experiences, you're manifesting those. So you are a good manifester. It's just let's shift the focus on what you're actually manifesting and start manifesting it in the right way. So basically that's what happened. It was like I needed to put together a system, right? So one of the key things is people knowing what it is that they desire. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, right? People don't know what they're manifesting. They've got like this idea. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? I'd like to have a new car, or well, what model is a new car? What model are you telling the universe you desire if you say you want a new car, right? A new car could be somebody else's old car that they're throwing away. It's new for you. It's something that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
So it's new to you. So it's about having clarity. Like if you jump into a taxi and you say, okay, take me, so you just jump into a taxi and you just sit there. You don't tell the driver where you want to go. They can't help you.
Yeah.
Right? Not until you tell them where you would like to go. And then you say, okay, I'd like to go to the beach and I'd like to go to the shopping mall at the same time. Well, they can't do that either.
Yeah.
Right? So unless you tell them exactly where you would like to go, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
here's the thing. Once you have a destination, once you know the actual address, there's a number of ways to get there. Right? And that's what people need to understand. You've got to have like that concrete idea of the life that you desire, right? And if all things are possible for us, then what would be your most incredible life? That's what you want to start with. And then from there, it's like, like there's all these other steps where you're working with the subconscious mind, like understanding how the subconscious mind works. And when you take action in alignment with the subconscious mind in the way it works, then what you're doing is you're supercharging the subconscious mind to bring your manifestations into being. Right? So that's a really important aspect of it. But then another aspect that we cover in that class is like the scientific background. So, having that engineering mind and studying quantum physics. I didn't, study it like, in university or anything like that. It was just my own research.
Yeah.
But like studying that, and what I do is I share the basics of quantum physics. So understanding how the energy works, understanding how you make the energy work. So the energy follows your intention. When you have clear intention, the energy follows it. The energy changes to suit it. Right?
Yep.
It's and a really good example of that is like, like there's times in your life where you don't feel good about yourself and you find that your finances drop. So the change takes place in you first, and then there's times where you do feel good about yourself and your finances rise to that level. The shift takes place in you first.
Yeah.
You shift you, the universe or the environment shifts around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so really what I wanted to do was create a system where people could follow it. And if they followed it, then they would create anything that they desire, because manifesting is simple. Right? But you got to work in the right way. You've got to work with the right steps. It's just like, if I've got my ladder against the wall, I will get to the top of the building. But if I've got my ladder on the wrong building, I'm not going to get to the roof that I desire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I remember, as an example for our viewers, when I was doing the Wealth Consciousness course, I remember at that time I had a full-time job and I had a couple of businesses and I had some shares and, I had quite a few things. I had an app and I remember around that time, everything sort of came to a halt except my job. And when I was doing that course, I remember working with someone and we realized that, and this is perfect theta, from a belief system point of view, that I had my dad's belief system that you have one job. You only have one job.
Yeah.
And so for some reason at that time, it had bubbled up and became a belief. I mean, I'd had it for my whole life, but it was just interesting. So that when I cleared that, then everything flowed again. And it was because I had my dad's belief system because in his whole career, he worked for one company for 42 years. So he only ever had one job.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's priceless. Like, there's so many of those sorts of experiences that people have because we are programmed unconsciously, like our subconscious beliefs are there. We're not aware of them. Yeah. And, you're observing your father, you respect him, you love him. And so there's no reason for you to doubt what his beliefs or his journey is the right one or the wrong one. You just trust it. Well, that's the right way to go.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you're creating all these opportunities for yourself. And now the resistance comes in because, hang on, we've got this belief system that's getting triggered because of all these opportunities that you're taking. So we need to clear this so that you can open that door.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. Like, like in all areas of your life, not just financial, health, relationships, all the different aspects of your life. It's just so powerful how your subconscious determines what you experience. And identifying it, having the opportunity, like with the Theta Healing classes, you're able to get in there and identify what's really your subconscious truth. And then you can change that.
Yeah.
That's priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 And so was this about nearly 20 years ago, wasn't it, now that you got into, that you had your health issues and then stepped into the Theta Healing realm?
Yeah, 21 years ago.
Okay.
So 2005.
Right, okay. And so obviously, It has been a long time. Obviously, your passion, your purpose, everything has kind of evolved over this time. So what's the latest evolution of your passion and purpose? What's new for you that's coming in the next couple of years that you can share with us?
Well, look, I guess for me, it's constantly looking at ways that I can make people's life easier, right? So, for me, that's a really important thing because our lives can get so complicated.
Yeah.
And there's so many issues going on, especially if we haven't really been into this self-awareness, we haven't been really healing ourselves and doing all that much inner work. It can really build up, right? So there can be a lot of baggage there. And so, if somebody's 50 years old, doesn't mean they have to wait 20 years to be able to heal all their stuff. Let's supercharge it. Let's fast track it. What are the ways that we can get in there and have really amazing results? So that's the sort of things that I'm looking at the moment. So, AI is a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at how, we can embrace that because it's just like the internet. Like, when the internet first came out, everyone thought, oh, yeah, it's just a fad. It's gonna blow over.
Oh, yeah.
So I think, artificial intelligence is the same way. So if we can have access to that and use it in a positive way where it can actually help us.
Yep.
And the other thing that I'm probably looking at more at too is getting more into like that ongoing support side of things. Like we do a lot of support, like monthly things that we do for our clients because when I first started 21 years ago, there wasn't any support. And so it's been really important to create that support. So doing things where we can actually support people more as well, right, on an ongoing basis. So, being myself more active in that as well and just sort of helping people. So like the key thing for me is about making that difference in people's lives, helping them become the best version of themselves. And that's not something that I'm sitting here saying that I've mastered. That's still my goal too. Like, it's becoming the best version of me.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe it's just that evolution and we're constantly growing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
How
that.
can I improve?
Yeah, I love that. And so if someone's listening and feels a connection to what you've shared today, like what would you suggest is the next step for them?
Yeah. So if you feel a connection, then, that's your intuition. So trust that. Allow yourself to look into it. And a really easy way to look into it is we do what we call a free healing workshop. And that's a free event where I actually go through and discuss how theta healing works and you can get access to that. But there's also like the basic theta healing class, which is the beginner class. It's a 3-day class where you learn all the tools to heal yourself. And that's the first step of it. So the wealth consciousness class that we mentioned, there's a few prerequisites that you've got to do before you can do that one. But yeah, just you can check my website. I think we've got the list, the link up there as well. Thanks, Megan. So that's the first step that I'd be taking. Like, just have a feel for it. Like, watch the free healing workshop. You got nothing to lose, and see if your radio resonates with you. Because what you've got to understand is that you are amazing, right? Your whole life, you've probably been told, or you've had your limitations exposed to you, constantly being brought up. This is your limitation here, this is your limitation there. This work, for me, the theta healing work is all about empowerment. It's all about me and you knowing that we do have a say in our life, that we can make a difference in our lives, that we can make a difference in other people's lives as well. And if I can reprogram my subconscious mind, then I can create anything that I desire, right? Because you got to understand too, is your body is amazing. Your body is absolutely amazing, right? Like, I love the medical industry. Like, they have their place. They're amazing. But like, if you look at somebody who's in a really bad car accident, the medical system, what they do is get your body into a balanced state, right? A stable state. And then they can't do anything more. What they've got to do is allow your body to heal itself.
Mm.
So that's what is really important for us to acknowledge and remember and keep in the front of our minds is our bodies heal themselves. Your body is amazing.
Yeah.
You are amazing. And there are so many possibilities for you. You just got to allow yourself to let go of that noise that's been conditioned, probably a lot of your life, and allow yourself to step into what's really possible for me.
Yeah.
If I allow myself to dream of, creating that most incredible life, what would that be for me?
Yeah. 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 And that was what happened. I was looking at lots of different healing modalities, and I remember walking into the room for the free seminar, and that was it. I was hooked. I was like, I've found it. I've found my modality. And so, yeah, anybody that's watching this, if they feel connected, please, the website's there, and that will take you to the page where you can connect and look at what's available. So yeah. Amazing. So you won't be surprised. Well, you may be surprised. I'm a bit surprised that I'm saying this, but we actually only have a couple of minutes left. I mean, we could talk forever. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I love to ask all of my guests before we finish our conversation. So, Mark, what is one lesson or truth that you've learned on your journey that you wish you had known earlier?
Probably, there's a number of things. Like, I made my life very difficult, to be honest with you. But if there's one key thing that I'd put my finger on, it would be the understanding that like the universe responds to my state of being. Right? See, a lot of the early years in my life, it was all about forcing things.
Yeah.
It was all about making things happen, taking the action, like forcing it to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So what it is I'm in this energy of, trying to force things. It was almost like, it was like a negative energy. Right. So it's like the negative motivation. It's like, I've got to make things happen. I've got to do more. I've got to keep pushing.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Always in like, like that focus. See, what it is the environment responds to our level of alignment.
Yeah.
Right? I like to call it a state of being.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if my state of being is one of abundance, then I'm allowing abundance into my life.
Yeah.
Right. I still take action. Right. Don't get me wrong. Don't think that like the state of being means you don't have to do anything. It's not the case.
Yeah.
Action enables reception. Right. So you've got to take the action in order to allow yourself to receive. But it's being in that higher vibration, that higher frequency. Right? So what is it that I desire in my life? What is and that thing that you desire in your life could be just to have a loving relationship with your partner. It could be to have, a harmonious relationship with your parents or with, siblings or whatever it may be. It could be to have financial abundance. It could be have a healthy body.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it starts with us.
Yeah.
Right. See, let me give you an example of that, right? So
we really only do have a couple of minutes left, so.
Okay, but just really cool, quickly, right? So I mentioned that I found Vianna's the Theta Healing book, right? So what I did was I booked in for a consultation, and I booked in for the basic and the advanced class. So the consultation was on a Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday was the first class. The following weekend was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the second class. That second class was actually in Melbourne. I live in Sydney, right? So the first class was in Sydney. So I'm half dead. If I pick up a shopping bag, it's going to collapse my spine. And here I am booking in for 2 courses and also like, a trip to Melbourne when I can't pick up a shopping bag. Yeah. So in my mind, I was already healed. Yeah. And it transferred into the physical body. So that's the key thing that I'm saying there. Stepping into the energy of already having what you desire. Yeah. And you allow it to come into your life. You don't need to be forcing. You don't need to be pushing things, making things happen. allow it.
Allow it. Whew. Thank you for spending this time with me. It's been fantastic. And even though I've known you for so long, I've still learned things from you today. So thank you for that.
It's an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'd also like to thank all of my amazing and dedicated audience, my supporters, and again, everybody who watches this show and supports this, what I do and the work that I do and the people that I have on the show. So thank you. I hope that everybody has an amazing rest of the week, and I'll see you all again next week. And again, thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you, Megan.